Welcome to part 1 of 3 of the Adaptive Mentorship for Dietetic Practice training videos. This segment will focus on the key concepts of the Adaptive Mentorship model. The Adaptive Mentorship model for dietetic practice is a tool that can be used to enhance your skills as a preceptor and assist you in the training of dietetic students. Research has shown that the Adaptive Mentorship model is a concrete tool that can be used to precept dietetic students. It creates an opportunity for the preceptor and student to have great conversations, which ultimately can create a positive training experience for all. The model focuses on competence and confidence for the students. Competence is the acquiring of skills, applying theory to practice, and being able to perform a skill accurately with a level of expertise. The strength of this model is that it also focuses on confidence. Confidence is the degree of self-assurance, composure, and feeling of security or safety the student has in performing a specific task or skill. On the right, you will see a picture of the model, which will be explained in further detail shortly. The role of the preceptor is to respond to the student's level of competence with task, which is the amount of direction to provide. Direction can be described as telling, demonstrating, or practicing so that the student is able to perform a task or skill to an appropriate level of competence. Preceptors respond to the student's level of confidence with support, which is the social and emotional support that foster the confidence of the student performing a particular task or skill. In this model, the student expresses his or her level of competence or confidence for a particular skill, and the preceptor adapts how they precept by varying the levels of task and support using the grids shown. Here you will see the student's grid, which we call the D grid for short. This is a non-sequential grid, and the student could be at several levels at once when looking at a specific skill. For example, a student may feel they are a D1 when having to counsel a patient for the first time, but yet they are a D4 about giving oral presentations. Each box in the grid contains a title and a short sentence to describe what each quadrant represents. In each box, there are levels of competence and confidence rated as high or low. The D2 box has been pulled out a little to remind students and preceptors that this is not a sequential grid and you do not need to start at D1 in a rotation and move through to D4. When a student indicates they are at a D1, they have low competence or limited skills, but high confidence. So, for example, they might be very excited to get practicing. Early in the internship year, at the beginning of a new rotation, students may be at a D1. The student is anticipating the practical experience and looking forward to being out in the field and does not have any formal experience. The student who chooses D2 is of low competence and low confidence. They could be choosing this box for one of two reasons. It's the start of a rotation and they're feeling a bit nervous, or they still might not have very much formal experience. However, a student could also be in the D2 box because they're having a bad day. This can happen anytime throughout an internship year, even when a student who was once at a point where they felt they were at a D4. It may be that he or she has counseled a very difficult patient or was grilled by another professional and just froze. D2 gives the student the option to ask the preceptor for help. The student who chooses the D3 box is feeling highly competent and low in confidence. The student has been developing and acquiring the necessary skills and performing tasks at a high level. However, he or she is still working on their level of confidence. The student who indicates they are at a D4 level are getting ready to enter the profession. Often they are transitioning into this stage midway through their internship for some rotations. It's important as a preceptor to remember that the student will still need some feedback and they may be ready for new challenges and experience. Students completing staff relief are often at a D4. And finally, this is the preceptor's adaptive grid, or known as the A grid. The grid is laid out the same as the student's D grid. The level of task and support are inverse to the student's level of competence and confidence. I will be discussing the A grid, or the preceptor's adaptive response, in part 2 of this series.
Created using Powtoon.